Hello everybody, here we are today talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning, how they are all in trying to win another Stanley Cup. But the question, of course, is going to be whether or not that'll actually happen. So before we get started with that, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So the Tampa Bay Lightning have been a very good team for a long time. They are not unfamiliar with that, as they have had long-term success, going back to even before when they won their 2 championships. And over the past 10 years, they've made it to the Stanley Cup final 4 times, of course winning 2 of those in 2020 and then 2021. And they are a side that, again, has had those big expectations, not just then, but before that. But in recent years, it does seem like, unfortunately, the team has regressed as they failed to crack 100 points in the past 2 seasons, respectively. They finished with 98 both times, and then also failed to get out of the first round of both postseason appearances, meaning this team, going from 3 straight Stanley Cup final appearances, is now a side that looks like at the moment they could be a lock for a first round exit. Not a guarantee, but it could happen. And it's fairly understandable too, as you look at the rosters that they had when they won those championships. They were really good, and they still have a lot of great players right now at the moment. I don't want to get that confused with anything, but this is a team, like you see with a lot of these other teams that win the Stanley Cup, especially a team like Tampa Bay. They're going to have players that are going to have great years, and they're going to go out and get money because they know they might not get the opportunities in Tampa Bay. They might not get the money because they're on a Stanley Cup contending team, which kind of leads to further deterioration, and you know how it works in sports. But anyway, looking at all this, you could be seeing something and say, oh, well, this is sort of a negative thing as they are out of their Stanley Cup window. But I would argue that the organization itself thinks that aside from their postseason failures over the past 2 years, they might be a little bit closer than what they see in reality, or what we see in reality, as they have gone out and made some big deals in the past few days, that being the Jake Guentzel contract, where they signed him to a 7-year deal. And that is big because he was one of those coveted free agents. They ended up trading for him before free agency and then just signing him to that 7-year contract. That's huge. I mean, there's no way you can accidentally do that and say, oh yeah, well, we're going to be headed to another first round exit. You do that with the mindset of being a team on the verge possibly of winning another title. On top of that, too, they signed Victor Hedman to a 4-year deal with an $8 million AAV. He is going to be handsomely paid for that contract, even though you're like, well, that is a lot of money for an older defenseman that has played a lot of minutes in a lot of games in the league. And it's not just them either, as Tampa Bay has a lot of other big contracts on the books, as they have long-term deals for guys like Brendan Hagel. You have Braden Point, you have Andrei Vasilevsky, which is a name that I would like to point out here as well, as Vasilevsky did not have a great year by his standards last year. But if you remember correctly, Vasi ended up having to miss the start of the season with an injury, and you're thinking maybe, just maybe, he's able to bounce back this upcoming season and be somebody that is a Vezina finalist. Now, I'm not going to go out there and say that that is absolutely the case, but for a player that has had a great career to this point and has played in, what, 3 Stanley Cups to this point? Well, 4 actually, because he did play in 2015 for a bit there. A guy that has won 30-plus games multiple times over, that is probably hungry to redeem himself, especially after the 2022 Stanley Cup playoffs. I think a lot of people are viewing him in a different light, as you had the game where Colorado just, lit the lamp a lot. So I would say that if he is able to have a resurgence, along with the additions of guys like Guentzel, and then some other names we'll talk about towards the end here, but the extensions, guys like Hedman as well, the organization could be in a spot where they're able to get back higher in the standings where they want to be. And as for a team, I think one thing that would be really great here is their power play is continuing to be dangerous, as they were first in the league for power play percentage at nearly 29%. Their PK percentage wasn't bad either. So if you can win at special teams and keep things even at 5-on-5, that is what you want to see if you are the Bolts, knowing that come playoff time, maybe you can continue to be dangerous. And I know that not every single player is going to be your Braden Point. They're not going to be your Jake Guentzel, but they have other pieces to be kind of intrigued about, maybe not excited about. You're getting Ryan McDonagh back. Wouldn't it be really cool to see him come back and play a big role for this team on the blue line to try to get them back in big games? Not necessarily saying that he's going to be the biggest impact player, but somebody that could contribute and move the needle closer to being back to be a contender like they were a couple of years ago. I don't know, maybe some people view them as contenders now at the moment. And then somebody like Cam Atkinson. I'm not going to say that he's going to be this monster that has 40 goals or anything like that, but maybe he is lucky enough to have a career resurgence, and he's on a 1-year deal for $900,000. So yeah, absolutely, he is a name that could have a good value for them. And if it works out, maybe you keep giving him these 1-year deals as he finds a home in Tampa Bay and things go well for him. As recently things haven't gone well for him in Philadelphia, but that's neither here nor there. Now, if I'm being honest here, do I really think the Tampa Bay Lightning are a true Stanley Cup contender? If I'm being honest at the moment, I'm going to say no, because I need them to prove it to me. Could they go out there and have a really great year? Maybe they could, but I'm going to give them about a year or two probably to try to figure things out and see if this actually works, because I think the longer this goes on, the less effective it'll be, as you have players that are going to be in their mid to late 30s as the years wind down. And yes, they do have a lot of long-term contracts. I don't even just like the names we mentioned. Sorelli has a long-term deal, as well as a couple other players. Nick Paul has like a 7-year deal. I don't remember exactly how long it is, but they are handing out these contracts with them in mind, trying to think, oh, we're going to be competitive for the long term. But also they probably are aware of the fact that in 5 years, if these guys are still playing the minutes they're playing, they are either dipping in the fountain of youth, or this team is in a worse spot than you could imagine. But yes, this is probably more focused, like I talked about in a recent video, on the short term and trying to capture that elusive third title, even though some of those names that got you those first two are going to be gone. It's all about trying to do what you can with this organization and with the team, of course, that you have to get back to claiming Lord Stanley. And so for now, we're going to have to wait to see if Tampa Bay is actually the real deal or not, as they were aggressive in free agency. And we get to watch out for whether or not they're going to be the best team in Florida, whether they're the best team in the East, and whether or not they are the best team in the league yet again. I am hoping for them to be really good, because it was fun to see them really good for a long time. But I also think at this point, they lost a little bit of that aura, if you will. I'm not going to necessarily compare them to like the 1980 through like 84-ish Islanders, where the Isles won 80 through 83 and then were knocked off by the Oilers in 84. That team is historically significant for a lot of reasons. There were some other teams as well that you could look back at. But when Tampa Bay got knocked out in 2022, it certainly felt like possibly the end of the era, or the beginning of the end, if you will, knowing that this team was continually losing pieces and some of these other teams in the league were on the up and up. And Tampa Bay at the moment, are they truly on the up and up, or are they just fighting against time, just trying to stay with the current? We will see. Anyway, everybody, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And Eagle of Falky, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.